Well, I wanted to share with you today about asking yourself, what do I need? This is something that us moms usually don't do. We're usually barreling through the day, making sure we're taking care of everyone else's needs, and rarely do we stop to ask ourselves, what do I need? And then we end up feeling just completely depleted and just at the end of our rope, not knowing what it is that we even need. And just feeling like we're burnt out. And so today I wanted to dive deeper into this topic because I think that it's something super important, and often we don't ask ourselves this exact question. So the reason I'm doing this episode is because this past weekend I attended um, it was a group, it was for my church. It's called T Groups, which is like a transformation group. That's what the T stands for. And it was all about, well, it's a 9 month um, thing, and we'll be going from September through May. It's once a month, and we have homework that we have to do in between. Our homework is very like personal, right? We had to pick things that are going to be personal. We had to pick some stretch goals. This past Saturday, we had to do a life walk, and it was very scary. I actually wasn't really scared for it until it started, and then I was like probably the sixth person that went. Well, I was probably the fifth because I think there's seven of us in our group. Um, but I was like, well, I'm like, I'll just share about my life, right? But as it went on, I kind of just felt, I struggle with vulnerability, and I felt like, am I really able to share with this whole group of people, virtually strangers, because I had never met, I knew one woman before, but I really didn't know any of the other people. And so the whole purpose of the thing was to help us feel closer to one another and get what we needed. And in the very beginning of going into it, we had to write on this chart our name. Um, what else did we have to write? We had to write our name. We had to write, um, I forget, there was something else. And then we had to write what we needed. It'll come to me what else we had to write on this list. And it was just, oh, I know what we were feeling, what we were feeling. And I felt excited. All week I actually had like butterflies in my stomach, and I had a few different like new events going on, different things that were just new to me. So I was like, just kept dismissing it as like these butterflies. But then as those things passed, I was like, I still feel it. And then I realized that it was actually for this whole group because it was going to be a huge deep dive. It's for personal growth and all of that good stuff. But I just felt like just like these knots in my belly. And so but I know physiologically that excitement and nervous has the same physical reaction. And so I was like, just it's like, I'm excited. Like I kept reframing it that way. But I think when we started the exercise, I realized that it actually was just like I was a bundle of nerves just because it was such a huge step in vulnerability. And I'm on the other side, right? Like I'm always like the listener and the affirmer and the validator. Like I am not comfortable in that position of sharing my story. And so it put me in a different position than I usually am. So we had to put what we felt. So I put excited and then what we needed. And I looked down the list, and some people had written sleep, rest. One person after me put God. And I was just like, what do I need? And then I found this list, which I'm going to share with you today. And I was like, this is what I needed, right? I looked down the list and I was like, I need acceptance. I need to know that in this room, when I share my story, that you will accept me, that I will feel accepted. And so that was what I wrote down, that I needed acceptance. And then I was like, I'm going to bring this list to my group, to all of you in my community, all of the moms, because when we actually do turn inward and ask ourselves what we need, these are the kinds of words that we're looking for. These are the kinds of things that are going to help us feel whole again and feel like we're not running around with our head off, right? Like a chicken with our head off, or whatever that expression is. Okay, so so I took a picture of it because I'm like, I don't feel like bringing my big binder today. So let me pull this up. So the first one is acceptance, right? Which is what I shared that I needed to feel that I can bare my soul, let's just say that, and still feel accepted, still feel that sense of belonging and that I am accepted and not rejected, right? That would be the opposite. And that's a fear that I hold of feeling rejected. And so I need to feel accepted. Another one is attunement. Let me know you know how I'm feeling in the moment. So, there's all different ways, and I'm not going to get into it today, but ways that we can accept ourselves and sit with our feelings and give ourselves these needs. Often, though, it may mean that you need to be in that engaged relationship, right? Where you can identify what it is that you need and then ask another person who is a safe person, which I'm also learning about is safe people, um, to provide these needs for you. But you can't expect somebody else to provide these needs for you if you don't even know what it is that you need. Right. And that's where a lot of like resentment and anger comes up from, is when you're expecting somebody else where our reality doesn't match our expectations. The next one is validation. Let me know my feelings are significant and not to be dismissed or minimized. The next one is identification. Share your own similar experience to help me see that I'm not the only one who is struggling. This is huge, like in motherhood, where we feel like we are alone, that we feel like, we're the only one that is struggling with this. And it is so um, game changing when we recognize or we realize that we're not alone in this, that when somebody else identifies with the problem we're facing or the struggles we're facing. The next one is containment. Let me vent and just have the feelings without fixing me. This is something that I need a lot, especially in my conversations with my husband, because he is a fixer. He wants to jump in and provide solutions. And a lot of times I'm like, I just want to talk. And a lot of times that comes out, which is, Saturday night, I came home from this thing and I was just a mess. I was like, it was very emotionally draining. I don't want to cry now just talking about it, but like it was very emotionally draining. And I came home and I started like doing the garage, like just cleaning out the garage. I had this like pent up energy in me. And like Jason, he could tell something was wrong. And later on, I like was like, can I just talk? Can you just listen? Like I just need you to listen. I don't need you to jump in. I feel like I just need to talk. And of course, as it always does, I start crying. I struggle so hard with this, being able to talk without crying or share my emotions without crying. Um, so I started bawling, and I felt like 15 minutes later, I said everything I said. I shared about like my experience in the tea group that day and just all of the things that it brought up in me, things that I realized, things that um, I just need to work past, right? And I just let it word vomit just all come up. And he didn't say anything. And I just felt like this release. Like I felt like I could breathe. And I felt in that moment that he was like my feelings were contained. And that was exactly what I needed. Comfort. Be present with me when I have to grieve a loss. Now, this isn't just a loss of death or a death, but like a loss of anything, right? Like a loss of a relationship, a loss of um, something that I expected, like a loss of like an expectation or a dream or a goal I have. Like these are other kinds of losses, not necessarily a death. All right, let me get to the next one is affirmation. Note that something good that requires effort. So note something good. So like when you're talking, when I'm talking, I need that affirmation. I need somebody to point out that positive things that I did, like good work, right? And affirm my choices and my actions. Encouragement, convey that you believe in me to continue on. Respect, show value to me when I don't experience it, when I feel like what I'm doing is of no value. I need that respect that that like I am valuable and that what I do is valuable. Hope, Give reality-based feedback about a positive future outcome. We need to feel hope, right? Hope, feeling hopeful is everything, especially when you feel so down and out and you feel so discouraged. To have hope of what's on the other side or the light at the end of the tunnel, it's super important to keep us going. Forgiveness. Let me know when my debt is canceled and help me cancel debts owed to me. So this might be being able to forgive yourself, being able to forgive others, because when we are unable to forgive, we carry such a heavy burden. And so it really does lighten us to be able to forgive ourselves and others. And then celebrate. Acknowledge the success of my life with me. Sometimes you just need someone to celebrate with you, to celebrate the good times, celebrate a job well done, celebrate the minute like moments of motherhood. But again, all of these, you have to stop and ask yourself, what do I need? And then asking someone to help you to provide these things for you. The next one is clarification. Ask me a few questions to help me get to the real issue and solutions. Sometimes we can't figure out what exactly is happening. Now, this T group is a faith-based group that I'm in, and so one of the things we talked about was the tree of, well, it wasn't really the tree of good and evil or tree of knowledge. He talked about like that parable where the tree is the guy wants to cut it down because it hasn't bared fruit in 3 years, and the gardener says, "I'm going to dig a hole and I'm going to fertilize it," right? And it's all about like the fruit being our behaviors and our habits and the things that we do. That's the fruit. That's what people see. That's what we see. But we really need to get to the source. We really need to like nurture and cultivate the source of the fruit, because if that's not good, then our fruit, we're going to continually to be um, you know harvest bad fruits, right? So back to this clarification. Help me get to that real issue, help me get to the source, so then I can change that. Perspective. Help me connect the dots at a deeper level. Sometimes we need somebody else's perspective to help us see the situation differently. Insight. Let me know you comprehend my situation, right? Sometimes we can feel like we're crazy. We can feel like, what the heck? Why am I going through this? And sometimes we need that different perspective, or we need somebody to provide insight or to provide clarity for us. Feedback. Tell me how you are experiencing me in the moment so that I can be aware of how I come across. And then finally, confrontation. Point out something I'm doing that is setting me back so that I can stop doing it. This is hard for many of us, right? Where it's hard to confront people who we may see something that they're not seeing, but also it's hard to be confronted, to be pointed out like something. And, not everything you have to take to heart, but some things, if there's, if it keeps coming up, it may be something that you may want to change. But again, awareness is key. And so you need to know what it is in order to change it. Now I said finally, but that was, it has different, well, it says Q1, Q2. So I'm kind of, so that was the last one for Q3. So finally, Q4. And there's a couple needs under this one. Advice. Recommend some constructive action to help me change and improve, right? To take action, to move towards, to make progress in your life. Structure. Provide me with a framework to accomplish something. Sometimes we can't see that. We're so close to the problem, we can't see that bigger picture. And so we may need somebody else to point that out and provide that framework for us. Challenge. Move me beyond my comfort zone to higher levels. Nothing grows in a comfort zone. And so we need that challenge. Look, it says it on my cup, and I don't know if this is backwards, but if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. I think it might be backwards to you, but it may not be. But it's true, right? In order to change, we need to be challenged. If you're comfortable, then you're going to just stay comfortable and not change. And that's, kind of sad. We want to change. We want to be getting better. We only have one life. We want to become the best person that we can become. Development. Help me with an approach to significant change over time. So again, like, you may need that help. Help me develop something. Help me figure out how to do this, how to change. And then service. Help me serve and give back to others what I have received. We can't do this alone. We need a team, right? I've talked about this before when there's a lot of women or even a lot of men too. Mostly women though. Let's be real here. That are on very similar missions with me. Like we are out to change the world. We're out to change the narrative of motherhood. And every time I see that, I do not feel threatened. I feel like, heck yeah, because one person is not going to make the change that we all want. We have to all be working together in order to change the narrative of motherhood, to get away from the supermom syndrome, the sacrifice mentality, to recognize our worth. And we can't do it alone. So help me serve, help me change the world, help me help others by spreading the message, by listening, helping other moms see that they are not alone, changing this whole motherhood journey, right? So that is all I have for you today. I was really excited, like I said, when I saw this, and I'm like, I need to share this with my Moms of Fat Caves community because this is important. And I'm always talking about, you have to ask yourself what you need, right? It's not, oh, I need a cup of tea, right? It's not, I need a bubble bath, but really asking yourself to get to that source. What do I actually need right now? And then giving yourself that, asking, leaning in on your support system, building a support system if you don't have one, doing what it takes to give yourself what you need because you can't expect others to do that if you don't know what it is that you need. So stop living on autopilot and ask yourself, what do I need today? All right, that's it. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope that you continue to get to know yourself, love yourself, and be yourself. Take care, everyone.